Engineer Cho Hyun-woo had always questioned what the government told people, but what he found in the old research building on Mars changed everything he thought he knew. The building had been abandoned for years and covered with dust, but the computer systems deep underground were still working. He was supposed to be fixing the air recycling systems, but curiosity led him to explore the lower levels, where he found rooms full of old computers and filing cabinets. The security doors had stopped working long ago, so he could walk right into areas that used to be top secret. Shin Ga-young was with him when they discovered the hidden archives. She was a data specialist who could read the old computer files that most people had forgotten how to access. Together, they started going through decades of classified information that governments had tried to hide. Look at this, Hyun-woo whispered as he opened a file marked Project Starwatch. The document showed records of alien contact going back over 50 years. Every major government on Earth had known about the Vanguard and had been working with them in secret. Ga-young stared at the screen in shock. This says the barrier around our solar system has been in place for over 200 years. The blackout was not when it started, it was when we finally became aware of it. The files contained reports of crashed alien ships, secret meetings between human leaders and Vanguard representatives, and technology transfers that explained many of the sudden scientific advances of the past century. Computer chips that should have taken decades to develop had appeared overnight. Medical treatments that seemed too advanced for human science had saved millions of lives. Every space mission that failed to reach other star systems had been deliberately sabotaged by human governments working with alien advisors. The crews never knew why their equipment malfunctioned or why they had to turn back. They thought it was bad luck or poor engineering. Here is something about the Roswell incident, Ga-young said as she pulled up another file. It was not a weather balloon or a military experiment. It was a Vanguard ship that crashed on purpose so they could make contact with human authorities. The documents showed that the aliens had been testing human reactions to their presence for decades. They would stage fake UFO sightings to see how people responded. They would share small pieces of technology to see if humans would use them for peace or war. They were always watching and judging. Young-woo found records of secret facilities where human scientists worked with alien technology. There were underground labs in Antarctica, hidden bases on the far side of the moon, and research stations in the asteroid belt that did not appear on any public maps. The most shocking discovery was a video recording of a meeting between Earth leaders and Vanguard representatives from 30 years ago. In the recording, the aliens explained that humanity was being prepared for eventual contact, but only if they proved they could handle the responsibility. Your species shows great promise, the Vanguard leader said in the recording, but also great potential for destruction. We have seen civilizations destroy themselves when they gained access to advanced technology too quickly. The quarantine is for your own protection as much as ours. The human leaders in the recording asked many questions about when the quarantine would end. The aliens explained that it would depend on how humanity developed. They would be watching for signs that humans could work together peacefully and responsibly. Some of the files contained disturbing information about other alien species that wanted to destroy humanity before they could become a threat. These hostile aliens had been kept away by the Vanguard barrier, but they were still out there waiting for any sign that humans were expanding beyond their home system. We have been living in a protective bubble this whole time, Ga-young said quietly, staring at images of massive alien warships. The barrier was not just hiding us from the galaxy, it was hiding the galaxy from us. Hyun-woo discovered that some human leaders had argued for keeping the quarantine in place forever. They believed humanity was not ready for galactic contact and might never be ready. Other leaders had pushed for gradual disclosure and eventual integration with alien civilizations. The files showed that the recent blackout was actually the result of a decision by the Vanguard Council. The testing phase was ending and humanity would soon have to choose their own path. The barrier could remain in place, keeping them safe but isolated, or it could be lowered to allow contact with the wider galaxy. Just as they were reading about the final test phase, alarms started sounding throughout the abandoned facility. Emergency broadcasts were being transmitted to every human settlement in the solar system. The message was simple but terrifying: citizens of Earth and the colonies, this is an official announcement from the Global Defense Council. After decades of secrecy, we must now reveal the truth about our situation. Humanity has been under observation by an alien civilization. Called the Vanguard, the barrier that has hidden our solar system is real, and it has been protecting us from hostile forces in the galaxy. The broadcast continued with explanations about the testing phase and the choice that humanity now face: stay safely isolated or face the dangers and opportunities of galactic contact. The revelation sent shockwaves through every human community on Earth. People poured into the streets demanding answers from their governments. Some were angry about the decades of lies and secrecy. Others were terrified about the hostile aliens that might be waiting beyond the barrier. Many people did not know what to believe after being told that everything they thought they knew about space exploration was wrong. The colonies reacted with a mixture of fear and excitement. Mars had always been home to people who wanted to explore and expand. So many colonists supported the idea of galactic contact. The mining settlements in the asteroid belt were more cautious, because they depended on Earth for supplies and did not want to risk everything on an unknown future. Religious leaders struggled to address the theological implications of contact with alien civilizations. Some saw it as proof that God had created life throughout the universe. Others worried that alien contact would destroy human faith and values. The debates raged in churches, temples, and mosques across human space. Scientists were divided between excitement about learning alien technologies and fear about the consequences of contact. Some researchers had always suspected that human technological progress had outside help. Now they had confirmation, but also the knowledge that this help came with strings attached. Politicians found themselves facing questions they had never prepared for. Voters wanted to know who had made the decision to keep the alien contact secret, and whether the same leaders could be trusted to make decisions about humanity's future. Some governments fell within days, as angry citizens demanded new leadership. The most difficult part was that ordinary people had to make a choice that would affect their children and grandchildren for generations to come. The decision was not just about technology or politics. It was about what kind of species humanity wanted to be. Families were torn apart by the debate. Some members wanted the safety of continued isolation, while others were willing to risk everything for the chance to explore the galaxy. Parents worried about leaving a dangerous universe for their children, while young people worried about being trapped forever in their home system. Yun Wu and Guiyang realized that their discovery of the classified files was just the beginning. The real test would be whether humanity could make this momentous decision together without falling into chaos or civil war. The aliens were watching to see if humans could handle the truth about their situation. As protests and debates raged across human space, the Vanguard maintained their barrier, waiting patiently for humanity to show what they were truly made of. The choice would reveal whether decades of secret testing had prepared humans for their cosmic destiny, or whether they would need more time to grow and mature. The truth was finally out, but the hardest part was just beginning. Captain Ru Songmin stood in the docking bay of his ship, preparing for the most important journey any human had ever made. He had been chosen by the Global Council to represent humanity before the Galactic Tribunal, where alien civilizations would decide if humans deserved to join the galactic community. The selection process had taken months, with candidates tested for everything from diplomatic skills to psychological stability. Songmin had been chosen not because he was the smartest or strongest, but because he could stay calm under pressure and speak for all of humanity without letting his own opinions get in the way. His ship was called Unity, and it had been specially modified with Vanguard technology for the journey to the Tribunal Station. The trip would take him through regions of space where the normal laws of physics worked differently, where civilizations millions of years old had built structures that spanned entire star systems. Dar Li Haijin, the ship's science officer, ran final checks on the equipment that would record everything that happened at the tribunal. The recordings would be broadcast back to Earth, so that every human could see how their fate was being decided as Unity left the solar system. Songmin felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on his shoulders. 8 billion people on Earth and millions more in the colonies were depending on him to convince alien judges that humanity deserved freedom. The pressure was almost too Much to bear the journey through Vanguard space was like nothing any human had ever experienced. The ship passed through regions where time moved at different speeds and areas where matter existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Songmin watched through the viewports as impossible structures drifted past megastructures that could house entire civilizations. After 3 days of travel, they arrived at the Tribunal Station, a sphere of crystallized space-time that housed representatives from thousands of different species. The station was so large that Unity looked like a tiny insect next to it. Songmin could see other ships arriving carrying delegates from across the galaxy. The docking process was handled by automated systems that guided Unity into a berth designed for oxygen-breathing species. Songmin put on his dress uniform bearing the insignia of United Earth and walked through the airlock into an environment unlike anything humans had ever imagined. The corridors of the station were filled with beings that defied description. Some appeared to be made of pure energy floating through the air like living lightning. Others looked like geometric patterns that shifted and changed as they moved. A few resembled familiar animal forms from Earth, but most were completely alien. Navigation through the station was handled by helpful guide creatures that looked like floating jellyfish made of light. They communicated through colors and patterns that somehow conveyed meaning directly to Songmin's brain. He found himself understanding directions without knowing how. The council chamber itself was a marvel of engineering that existed in multiple dimensions at once. The walls curved in impossible directions, and the ceiling showed views of distant galaxies as if they were just outside. Songmin took his place at a platform designed for humanoid species and waited for the proceedings to begin. Representatives from thousands of civilizations filled the chamber. Some were ancient beings that had existed since the galaxy was young. Others were young species like humanity that had only recently developed space travel. The diversity was overwhelming, but also beautiful in its complexity. Species designation Human announced the Prime Arbiter, a being that appeared to be composed of swirling galaxies and cosmic dust. You stand accused of aggressive expansion, resource exploitation, and the potential for interstellar warfare. How do you answer these charges? Songmin stepped forward, feeling the eyes of the galaxy upon him. Honored Council, humanity acknowledges our past mistakes. We have been warlike, destructive, and short-sighted in our history, but we have also shown the capacity for growth, compassion, and sacrifice. We have learned to work together despite our differences. A representative that looked like a crystalline tree spoke with a voice like wind chimes. Yet your species continues to develop weapons of mass destruction. Your entertainment media glorifies violence and conquest. What evidence do you offer that humanity deserves a place among the galactic community? Songmin activated a holographic display that showed scenes from Earth history. Humans helping strangers during natural disasters. Scientists sharing knowledge across national borders. Artists creating beauty in the face of suffering. We offer our potential, he said. Not perfection, but the willingness to become better. The trial continued for days, with Songmin defending humanity record. While learning about the complex politics of galactic civilization, he discovered that many species had gone through similar trials when they first developed space travel. Some had passed and joined the galactic community, others had failed and remained isolated until they matured. He learned about the Zephyrian Empire, a species that had been granted galactic membership only to use their new knowledge to conquer neighboring systems. The war that followed had lasted for centuries and destroyed dozens of civilizations. The Council was determined not to make the same mistake twice. The Crystalline Collective shared their story of peaceful development over millions of years. They had never known war or violence and could not understand why any species would choose conflict over cooperation. They argued that humanity's aggressive nature made them too dangerous for galactic contact. But the Vanguard spoke in humanity defense, citing the progress humans had made in reducing warfare and working together on global challenges. They pointed to the peaceful colonization of Mars and the international cooperation that had built the space station. Songmin was questioned about every aspect of human civilization, from their economic systems to their religious beliefs. The Council wanted to understand not just what humans had done, but what they were capable of becoming. They probed for signs of wisdom and maturity. The most difficult moment came when he was asked about humanity treatment Of their own planet, the environmental damage caused by industrial development was well known to the Council. Many species saw this as evidence that humans could not be trusted with advanced technology. We have made terrible mistakes with our environment, Songmin admitted, but we have also learned from those mistakes. We have developed clean energy sources, protected endangered species, and begun to heal the damage we caused. Our errors have taught us the value of responsibility. A representative from the Silicon Federation, a species of living computers, asked about human artificial intelligence research. They were concerned that humanity might create digital beings without considering their rights and freedoms. This had been a source of conflict. In many civilizations, we are still learning about artificial intelligence, Songmin replied honestly, but we have begun to consider the ethical implications of creating thinking machines. We want to do this responsibly with consideration for any consciousness we might create. As the trial progressed, Songmin realized that the council was not just judging humanity's past actions, they were trying to predict what humans would do with the freedom and knowledge that came with galactic membership. The decision would be based on potential as much as history. The final day of the trial brought testimony from species that had interacted with humans through the Vanguard secret contact program. A few alien observers had been allowed to visit Earth, disguised as humans, to study human behavior up close. Their reports were mixed. Some praised human creativity and adaptability, while others expressed concern about human tribalism and tendency toward violence. The debates among the council members were intense, with no clear consensus emerging. It came time for his final statement. Songmin stood before the assembled representatives of galactic civilization and spoke from his heart. We are not perfect, and we do not claim to be, but we are a young species, still learning, still growing. We ask not for blind trust, but for the chance to prove ourselves through our actions. The council retired to deliberate, and Songmin was left to wait in a chamber designed for visiting species. The hours stretched into days as alien judges debated humanity's fate. He knew that whatever decision they reached would echo through human history for generations to come. During the waiting period, he was allowed to observe other council sessions where different species presented their cases for membership or made requests for assistance. Songmin was struck by the complexity of galactic politics and the careful balance between cooperation and independence. When the council finally reconvened, the tension in the chamber was thick enough to cut. The Prime Arbiter spoke with the weight of cosmic authority. Humanity will be granted provisional membership in the Galactic Federation. The barrier will be gradually reduced over the next decade, allowing for carefully monitored first contact with selected special. Songmin felt relief wash over him, but the Arbiter was not finished. Your progress will be evaluated every 2 years. Failure to meet the standards of galactic citizenship will result in the restoration of quarantine. Humanity has been given a chance to prove themselves worthy of the trust being placed in them. As he prepared for the journey home, Songmin knew that the real work was just beginning. Humanity had won the right to try to join the galactic community, but they would have to earn their place through actions, not words. The trial was over, but the test would continue for years to come. Commander Oh-Mi Young sat in the pilot's seat of her small stealth ship as it moved through the darkness toward the strange barrier. 3 weeks had passed since Earth disappeared from all the star maps, and nobody had any answers. The military base on Europa where she worked was full of scared soldiers and confused scientists. She was not supposed to be here. Flying alone toward the mysterious border zone, the orders from Earth Defense Command were clear: stay away from the barrier and wait for instructions. But Mei Young had never been good at following orders when people needed help. Her ship was called Silent Arrow, and it was designed to be invisible to most sensors. The military used ships like this for secret missions behind enemy lines, but there had never been an enemy like this before. Something that could hide entire planets was beyond anything humans had ever faced. The communication system made a soft beeping sound, and Mi Young looked at the message on her screen. It contained only some numbers that showed a location in space and one word, come. The message had no sender name and used a communication method that should have been impossible against every rule she knew. Mi Young decided to investigate. She programmed the coordinates into her navigation computer and felt her heart beating fast as the ship moved toward whatever was waiting for her. As Silent Arrow got closer to the barrier. The instrument started acting crazy. The gravity detector showed readings that made no sense. The energy scanner kept displaying numbers too big for the screen to show properly. Even the simple clock started running backward for a few seconds outside the window. Mi Young watched the stars themselves begin to change. They looked like they were made of water instead of light, rippling and bending in ways that hurt her eyes to watch. Space itself seemed to be folding like a piece of paper being crumpled up. Then, without any warning, huge ships appeared out of nowhere. They were so big that her entire spaceship could fit inside just one of their cargo bays. The ships were dark and covered with patterns that seemed to move and shift when she looked at them. "Directly unknown vessel, you will halt immediately," a voice spoke inside her head. The words did not come through her radio or communication system. They appeared directly in her thoughts with a feeling of great age and power behind Themi Young. Hands were shaking as she tried to activate the recording equipment. She wanted proof of what was happening, even if nobody would believe her. "This is Commander O. Mi Young of the Terran Defense Force," she said out loud, hoping whoever was speaking could hear her. "Who are you, and why have you trapped our solar system?" "We are the Vanguard," the voice replied, and suddenly her main screen filled with an image that made her gasp. The being on the screen looked like it was made of living starlight, with a body that kept changing between geometric shapes and flowing organic forms. "We have watched your species for thousands of years, waiting to see if you would prove worthy of contact." Worthy? Mi Young struggled to keep her voice steady. "You have cut us off from our home system. You have caused panic on every human colony. How is that protecting us? We have protected you." The being corrected, and its voice carried feelings of ancient patience mixed with deep concern. "Your species has shown great potential for growth and learning, but also dangerous tendencies toward violence and destruction. The barrier serves two purposes: to shield you from forces you are not ready to face, and to prevent you from accidentally destroying yourselves through reckless expansion." Mi Young felt dizzy as she tried to understand what the alien was telling her. "You mean there are things out there worse than being trapped in our own solar system?" "Much worse," the Vanguard replied. "The galaxy is full of civilizations that would see humanity as a threat to be eliminated. Your rapid technological development and aggressive nature have been noticed by species that do not believe in second chances." The alien ship began to glow with soft blue light, and Mi Young felt her small vessel being pulled toward it by some invisible force. She tried to fight the controls, but nothing responded. The pulling sensation was gentle but completely unstoppable. "Do not fear," the voice said in her mind. "You will not be harmed. We wish to show you something that will help your people understand their situation." Mi Young found herself surrounded by swirling energy, and then she was standing inside the alien ship. The chamber she appeared in seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at the same time. The walls curved in directions that should have been impossible, and the floor felt solid under her feet. Even though it looked like flowing water around the room, she could see screens showing images of space battles between different alien species. Some of the ships were destroying entire planets with weapons that turned matter into pure energy. Other screens showed peaceful meetings between alien diplomats. But she noticed that humans were not included in any of the peaceful scenes. "Your species is at a crossroads," the Vanguard being explained as it floated near her. "The choices you make in the next few years will determine whether humanity joins the galactic community as friends or faces it as enemies." "What kind of choices?" Mi Young asked as she stared at the images of cosmic warfare. "The choice between growth and conquest," the alien replied. "Between cooperation and domination. Your people have the potential for great wisdom, but also great destruction. We have been testing your species to see which path you will choose." Testing U.S. How every space mission that failed mysteriously, every attempt to reach other star systems that ended in equipment malfunction. Every time your people tried to expand beyond your solar system, we redirected you back home. We wanted to see if you would learn patience and work together, or if you would become more aggressive and try to force your way out. Mi Young felt anger rising in her chest. "You have been manipulating us for decades. You made us think we were alone in the universe we made. You focus on solving problems within your own system," the Vanguard replied calmly, "and in that time your species has made remarkable progress. You have reduced warfare on your home planet. You have learned to work together on large projects. You have begun to think of yourselves as one people instead of many competing tribes, but some of us still want to fight and conquer, Young said quietly, yes. And that is why the test continues. The barrier will remain in place until your people prove they are ready for contact. Some civilizations in the galaxy believe humans are too dangerous to ever be allowed freedom. Others think you have potential for peaceful cooperation. What happens if we fail the test? Then you remain safely isolated in your home system forever, the alien said with what sounded like sadness. You would live full lives and your civilization would continue to grow, but you would never know what lies beyond your borders. And if we pass, then you will be introduced gradually to the galactic community. You will have allies and teachers. You will learn about technologies and philosophies that will help your species reach heights you cannot imagine, but you will also face dangers and responsibilities that come with being part of something larger than yourselves. Young looked around the impossible chamber and felt the weight of her entire species' future pressing down on her. How long do we have to make this choice? The testing phase is ending soon, the Vanguard replied. Your people will need to decide what kind of civilization they want to be. The choice cannot be made by leaders or governments alone. It must come from the hearts of all humanity. When Mi-young found herself back in her own ship, she was no longer afraid. She was filled with purpose. The recording equipment had captured everything, and she knew she had to get this information back to Earth and the colonies. Humanity deserved to know the truth about their situation and the choice they faced. As her ship turned toward home, she looked back at the massive alien vessels already fading back into invisibility. The Vanguard were still watching, still waiting to see what humanity would choose. Captain Lee Dae-ho stood in front of the big screen on his spaceship. The screen was showing nothing but black space where Earth should be. He touched the controls with his rough hands, but nothing changed. The darkness was still there, like someone had painted over their home with black paint 3 days ago. Everything was normal. The navigation computer could find Earth and all the planets around it. Now the computer acted like Earth never existed at all. The screen just showed empty black space where billions of people lived and worked. His ship was called Horizon Edge, and it was one of the biggest exploration ships humans had ever built. They were coming back from a long mission to study distant stars, but now they could not find their way home. The computer map showed nothing where Earth used to be. Lieutenant Park Soo-jin ran up to him with worry on her face. She had been trying to contact Earth for hours but got no answer at all. Her hands were shaking as she held the communication device. Captain, the mining station at Taiten is not answering our calls, she said with fear in her voice. Titan Base has 3,000 workers there. They always answer calls within minutes. Something is very wrong. Dae-ho felt cold fear in his stomach. Titan Base was the biggest mining operation in the solar system. It produced metals and minerals for all the space colonies. If something happened to Titan, then maybe something happened to Earth. To the navigation officer, Kim Jae-sung looked up from his station with confusion on his face. Sir, I have checked all our systems 5 times. The quantum compass is working fine, but it cannot find any of our home planets. It shows empty space where everything should. Dae-ho walked over to the big window at the front of the ship. Outside, he could see millions of stars twinkling in the darkness, but something was wrong. The stars looked different than before. They seemed to bend and twist in strange ways near where Earth should better. Kim Tae-won came running onto the bridge. He was the smartest scientist on the ship and usually stayed calm during problems. But now his face was white with shock and his hands were shaking as he held a data tablet. Captain, I have been studying the sensor readings from the edge of our solar system, he said with excitement and fear in his voice. What we are seeing is not natural at all. Someone or something has built a barrier around our entire home system. A barrier? Dae-ho asked. What kind of barrier could hide an entire solar system? Tae-won showed him the tablet screen with lots of numbers and graphs. The energy readings are incredible, he explained. The power needed to create this barrier is more than all of human civilization uses in 1,000 years. Whoever built this has technology we cannot even understand. The bridge became very quiet. Everyone could hear the humming sound of the ship engines, but nobody spoke. They all understood that something very big and very scary was happening. To their home in the passenger areas of the ship, people were pressing their faces against the windows trying to see Earth. Some of them were crying because they could not find their home planet. Others were praying to whatever gods they believed and a few brave souls were taking pictures of the strange bending stars. An old woman named Hansunya had been visiting her daughter on Mars when the blackout started. Now she could not get home to Earth where her husband was waiting for her. She sat by a window and talked to herself about all the things she wanted to tell him. The children on the ship were asking their parents why they could not see Earth anymore. The parents did not know what to say because they were just as scared and confused. Some parents made up stories about clouds hiding Earth, but the children were smart enough to know that space does not have clouds communications. Officer Yoon Haijin kept trying to contact Earth on every frequency possible. She sent messages in every language humans spoke, but got no reply at all. Even the automatic systems that always broadcasted weather and news from Earth were silent. Captain, we are getting reports from other ships too, she said quietly. The cargo vessel Blue Horizon was near Jupiter when this started. They report the same thing. All the inner planets have disappeared from their sensors. Daeho felt the weight of command pressing down on his shoulders. He was responsible for 800 people on his ship, and they were all looking to him for answers he did not have. In 20 years of space exploration, he had seen many strange things, but nothing like this. The worst part was not knowing if Earth was destroyed or just hidden. If the planet was gone, then everyone they loved was dead. But if it was hidden, then maybe there was hope. That uncertainty was driving everyone crazy with worry. Dr. Taewon kept studying his instruments and making notes. He was trying to understand how the barrier worked. His measurements showed that space itself was being bent and twisted in impossible ways. The barrier was not just blocking light and radio signals. It was actually changing the shape of space around Earth. Some of the crew members started talking about turning the ship around and going back to the colonies on the outer planets, but Daeho knew they had to stay and figure out what was happening. If Earth was in trouble, then someone needed to help. The ship engineer Park Min-ho came to report that some of the passengers were getting sick from worry. They were not eating or sleeping properly. The medical bay was full of people having panic attacks. The ship doctor was giving out sleeping pills and calming medicine, but it was not helping muchas. Night cycle came on the ship. Most people could not sleep. They stood by the windows staring at the empty black space where their home should be. Some wrote letters to family members on Earth, even though they could not send them. Others just sat quietly and thought about everyone they might never see again. The navigation computer kept running automatic scans every hour looking for any sign of the home planets. But every scan came back the same empty black space where billions of people used to live and work. The computer even started displaying error messages because it could not understand what it was seeing. Captain Lee Daeho stood on the bridge all night long. He knew that tomorrow would bring more questions from the crew and passengers. They would want to know what the plan was and when they could go home, but he had no answers to give them. The only thing he knew for certain was that humanity had just discovered they were not alone in the universe. Something with incredible power had surrounded their entire solar system, and whatever that something was, it was either protecting them or imprisoning them. As the ship drifted through space toward the mysterious barrier, Daeho made a decision. They would not run away to the outer colonies. They would stay and find out what happened to Earth, even if it meant facing whoever had the power to hide an entire solar system. The darkness ahead of them held secrets that would change everything humans thought they knew about their place in the galaxy. But Captain Lee Daeho and his crew were ready to face whatever was waiting for them in that black emptiness where Earth used to shine. As news of the tribunal decision spread across human space society, began to break apart along lines that nobody had expected before. The provisional membership offered by the Galactic Council came with conditions and risks that divided families, communities, and entire worlds. Former Earth President Nam Ruhwan became the leader of the isolationist movement, which argued that humanity should reject the galactic offer and remain safely within their protective barrier. He held rallies on every major world, speaking to crowds of worried people who feared what contact with alien civilizations might bring. We have built a good life within our solar system, he told a gathering of 10,000 people on Luna City. We have colonies on Mars thriving, settlements in the asteroid belt, and research stations throughout the outer planets. Why should we risk all of this to join a galaxy that sees us as Dangerous, his words resonated with many people, especially those who had families and homes. They did not want to lose. The isolationists pointed to the long history of alien civilizations destroying each other in wars that lasted for centuries. They argued that humanity would be safer if they stayed home and continued developing on their own. On the other side, colonial leader Bai Yujin led the expansionist movement from her base on Titan. She had spent her entire life pushing the boundaries of human exploration, and she saw the galactic offer as the greatest opportunity in human history. We cannot remain children forever, she declared during a broadcast that reached every human settlement. The galaxy is vast and filled with knowledge and opportunities. We cannot even imagine. Yes, there are dangers, but there are also allies waiting to welcome us into a community of civilizations. The expansionist movement attracted young people, scientists, and explorers who had always dreamed of traveling to other star systems. They organized their own rallies showing holographic displays of alien technologies and alien worlds that humans might one day visit. The debate that followed was unlike anything in human history. Families found themselves split, with parents wanting safety while their children wanted adventure. Married couples argued about whether to support isolation or expansion. Some relationships ended over the fundamental disagreement about humanity's future. The scientific community was particularly divided. Dr. Park Yoon-young, a physicist at Seoul University, argued that contact with alien science would advance human knowledge by thousands of years. But Dr. Kim Seung-ho from the Mars Research Institute worried that alien technology might make humans dependent and weak. Religious leaders struggled with the theological implications of the choice. Cardinal Martinez from Earth spoke about humanity's special place in God creation, while Rabbi Chun from the asteroid colonies argued that contact with other thinking beings would strengthen human faith, not weaken it. The economic implications were staggering. The isolationists pointed out that galactic contact might disrupt human industries and leave millions of people without jobs. If aliens had better technology for mining, manufacturing, and transportation, then what would humans do for work? The expansionists countered that galactic trade would create opportunities that did not exist within the closed human system. Access to alien markets, knowledge, and resources could make humanity richer and more powerful than they had ever been. Children asked their teachers difficult questions about the choice that adults were making on their behalf. A 9-year-old girl named Lee So-young on Mars asked her teacher why grown-ups were so scared of meeting new people when she had always been taught that meeting new friends was good. Educational systems across human space had to develop new curricula to help people understand the implications of the choice. Schools organized debates between isolationist and expansionist speakers. Students wrote essays about what they thought humanity's future should look like. The media coverage was intense, with news networks taking sides in the debate. Some channels featured experts who warned about the dangers of alien contact, while others showcased the potential benefits. The constant arguments and conflicting information left many people confused and frustrated. Dr. Yang Sora, a philosophy professor from Luna University, offered a different perspective that gained attention across human space. Perhaps the real test is not whether we choose isolation or expansion, but whether we can make this choice as a united species, she said during a widely viewed interview. Her words sparked a new movement focused on the process of decision making rather than the decision itself. Town halls were organized on every world where citizens could discuss the choice openly and honestly. The conversations were sometimes heated, but they brought communities together. The Global Council announced that the final decision would be made by direct vote, with every human over the age of 16 allowed to participate. Voting stations were set up on every world and even on small mining platforms and research outposts. The campaign period was set for 6 months. Both sides organized massive efforts to convince voters. The isolationists created virtual reality experiences showing the horrors of alien warfare and the destruction of civilizations that had trusted the wrong species. The expansionists showed simulations of human colonies on beautiful alien worlds and laboratories where human and alien scientists worked together. The debates were broadcast live across human space, with representatives from both sides arguing their positions. The Format was respectful but passionate, with each side genuinely believing that their choice was best for humanity's survival and prosperity. Captain Oh Ji-hoon, a veteran of the Outer System Patrols, spoke for many people who were torn between the two options. "I want my children to have opportunities I never had," he said during one debate, "but I also want them to be alive to enjoy those opportunities." Voting process became a celebration of human democracy, even as it revealed deep divisions. In society, families that had argued for months put aside their differences to participate in the historic choice. Communities organized festivals around the voting stations, turning the decision into a shared experience. Some unexpected alliances formed during the campaign. Environmental groups that usually disagreed with industrial interests found common ground in their concerns about alien contact. Labor unions that rarely agreed on anything united behind the isolationist position. Artists and writers were particularly active in the campaign, creating works that imagined both possible futures. Musicians wrote songs about staying home safely, while others composed pieces about traveling to the stars. The cultural output during this period was extraordinary. As the voting day approached, both sides made their final appeals. Nam Ruwan gave a speech from Earth emphasizing the value of human independence and self-reliance. Bae Yujin spoke from Titan about the courage needed to embrace change and growth. The actual voting took place over a period of 48 hours to accommodate the different time zones across human space. The turnout was incredible, with over 90% of eligible citizens participating in the choice. Lines formed at voting stations as people waited patiently to cast their ballots. Results were transmitted in real time to every human settlement as votes were counted. The early returns showed a close race, with neither side holding a commanding lead. The tension was unbearable as billions of people watched the numbers change throughout the counting period. On Earth, families gathered around screens in their homes, watching the vote totals fluctuate. In the colonies, people filled public spaces to witness the historic moment together. Even children who could not vote yet understood that they were watching their future being decided. The final result was announced exactly 72 hours after voting began. 51% of humanity had voted for gradual integration with galactic civilization, while 49% preferred continued isolation. The margin was smaller than anyone had expected, but something unexpected happened in the hours after the results were announced. Instead of celebrating or protesting, people began talking about what the close vote meant. The decision had revealed that humanity was genuinely divided, but it had also shown that they could make difficult choices together. Leaders from both sides appeared together at a joint press conference. Nam Ruhan and Bae Yujin stood side by side as they addressed the human species. "We may have disagreed about the choice," Nam said, "but we all want what is best for our children and our future." The narrow victory for the expansionists came with a recognition that nearly half of humanity had serious concerns about galactic contact. Those concerns would need to be addressed as humanity moved forward into an uncertain future. The real work of unity was just beginning. Commander Park Jun-ho stood before the assembled Galactic Council wearing the uniform of Earth's first galactic ambassador. The close vote results from humanity had created a unique situation that required careful handling. The margin of victory was so small that it showed humanity was genuinely divided about their future. Honored Council Jun-ho began with his voice carrying across the vast chamber. "We have made our choice, but we recognize that it was not unanimous. 51% of our people voted for integration, while 49% preferred isolation. This division in our society is something we must address together." The Prime Arbiter leaned forward with interest in its cosmic voice. "Tell us, Ambassador, how does your species propose to proceed with such a divided population? We request a probationary period during which we can prove our worth through actions rather than words." Jun-ho replied, "We understand that many civilizations in this council have concerns about human nature. We want to earn our place in the galactic community by demonstrating that we can grow and change." The council deliberated for hours while Jun-ho waited in the chamber designed for visiting species. He could see representatives from different civilizations discussing humanity proposal in languages that sounded like music, mathematics, and colors. When the session reconvened, the atmosphere had changed. The Prime Arbiter spoke with what seemed like approval. "Humanity will be Granted provisional membership in the Galactic Federation, the barrier around your solar system will be gradually reduced over the next decade, allowing for carefully monitored first contact with selected species. Your progress will be evaluated. Every 2 years, the Arbiter continued failure to meet the standards of galactic citizenship will result in the restoration of quarantine. But success will lead to full membership and all the rights and responsibilities that come with it back in human space. The gradual removal of the barrier created visible changes in the night sky. Captain Lideho found himself once again on the bridge of the horizon edge, watching as his navigation systems slowly began to detect signals from distant star systems. The first change was subtle. New stars appeared on the stellar maps as the barrier thinned. Scientists worked around the clock to catalog the new information pouring in from previously hidden regions of space. Every day brought discoveries that excited researchers and worried security officials. Dr. Kim Tae-won, now serving as Earth Chief Xenobiologist, prepared detailed protocols for first contact with alien species. His team had spent months studying Vanguard data about other civilizations, learning about their culture's biology and psychology. The first alien visitors arrived 3 months after the council decision. A peaceful trade delegation from the Cerulean Collective brought gifts of knowledge and technology. Their ships looked like living creatures made of blue crystal that pulsed with internal light. Ambassador Jun-ho met them at the newly constructed diplomatic station orbiting Earth. The meeting was broadcast live to every human settlement, allowing people to see their first contact with non-Vanguard aliens. The Ceruleans were graceful beings that communicated through harmonious tones. We bring greetings from the peaceful worlds of our collective, their leader sang in a voice like bells. The Vanguard have spoken. Well, of your species' potential, we hope to build friendship between our peoples. The cultural exchange that followed was unlike anything humans had experienced. The Ceruleans shared art forms that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Their music could only be heard by minds that were connected to quantum fields. Their poetry told stories that changed meaning based on the listener. Emotional state. Dr. Tae-won marveled at their organic starships, which grew rather than being built. The ships were actually living creatures that had evolved in space, feeding on cosmic radiation and reproducing by budding new vessels. Everything we thought we knew about science and engineering was just the first page of an infinite book, he told his research teams. The technology sharing was carefully controlled, with both species taking precautions to avoid cultural contamination. Human scientists learned about quantum biology, while Cerulean researchers studied human creativity and emotional expression. Not all the early contacts were as successful. The geometric minds, a species of pure mathematical consciousness, found human irrationality and emotion to be completely incomprehensible. Their visit lasted only a few hours before they departed. Claiming that humans were too chaotic for meaningful communication, the Silicon Federation sent robotic ambassadors that were fascinated by human artificial intelligence research. They wanted to understand how organic beings could create digital consciousness without losing their own identity. The conversations led to breakthroughs in computer science and philosophy. Each new contact taught humanity something different about the galaxy and about themselves. The Crystalline Collective showed them patience and long-term thinking. The Vapor Folk demonstrated the beauty of collective consciousness. The Iron Builders shared techniques for mega-engineering projects. There were also warning visits from less friendly species. The Predator clans sent a single ship that observed human settlements for a week before departing. Their message was simple: grow strong quickly. The galaxy has those who would see you fail. These encounters reminded humans why the Vanguard barrier had been necessary. The galaxy contained civilizations that had been waiting millions of years for the chance to eliminate potential rivals. Humanity would need allies and strength to survive. The integration process was not without problems. Cultural misunderstandings led to diplomatic incidents when human emotional responses confused logical alien species. Some alien technologies proved dangerous when misused by humans who did not understand the safety requirements. A major crisis occurred when human tourists visiting